So, we are back a bit quicker, as now all the players are ready on the table. And we get dealt after the break. Our first hand that we are dealt is pocket nines, and we are going to ship it. Against the race. We don't get a call, but we are going closer to the chip lead. And Calleon has been adding some MTTs, sit and goes, and some actual MTTs might be nice also. I think it's going to be quite hard for you to mix even like normal and turbo 9 maxes and then MTTs because the session length will be completely horrible for you. Like completely horrible. Because on 9 max games there are no breaks. And even on Pocket Trees is a hand that it plays so well we can see all the cards, but on the flop we are so lost so often. So I think that even if we would have had all these 54 down chip stacks, I would still have shoved this. Like even with 18 big blind effective stacks, I think that it's probably best played as a shove. Ace deuce, it's going to be an easy shove. Depends a bit on these opponents that should we start pretty much min raising crap from the button, that do they fold enough? And now we are at the heads up, and as we can see in the heads up we are playing pretty much for a price pool jump of $19 and then about $30. I think with ace 4 off it's going to be good to shove. This guy has raise folded before, and it's going to be the easiest way to play the hand. And we are raising, and if he shoves over us we are going to call, and we're going to play some post flop if he calls, and I think it's going to be easy going. Probably we don't have too many good things to happen to us if we are betting here, so there are some draws. But I think that we are having also so much showdown equity anyways. We could have gotten our opponent to fold some of the equity, but there are not that many horrible cards for us on a flop. Unfortunately our opponent hit one of those, but fortunately for us we didn't lose that much against him. It depends a bit on how much this guy will fold to a steal. That should we steal, and something like jack high I'm more apt to turning into a bluff, and especially if our opponent is not that likely to hit, because I think these opponents are going to play more of their own cards. Solid hand like king 9. Let's go for a min raise and see what happens. And right now I haven't seen much from this guy that we shouldn't open. I haven't seen that much from this guy that we shouldn't play any hand. Again, a board that it's pretty hard for our opponent to hit. So let's get those spots on the flop. And Kauris says that these are fair bounties. Yeah, basically we are playing for $34 because the winner may keep his own bounty as well. This is like limp, flop nice, bet, get the pot, repeat. And those flops have been nice because they are really hard for our opponent to hit. He hasn't limped at all. He hasn't stolen that much from the small blind. Actually, like 8-7 off, if this guy was opening like 70%, I wouldn't fold. But against a guy that opens so few hands, I'm thinking that it's going to be good. This is a hand that hits pretty damn well, but we are having just a gut shot. I think betting here is better, even if we need to bet fold. I think it's still better. Now we got some showdown equity. I actually think that showdown equity doesn't matter. We are still playing pretty close to if we are playing a king high. And now it matters a lot. Because now we are having trips. Even though there is an opportunity to have a flush or a straight, I think that the most likely hands for our opponents will be two paired hands. So I'm trying to get a small bet in. And I'm still going to call if he shoves. I think that there are just so few straights or flushes in his range compared to every two pair hands that he will have. There are so many hands that he will hit two pairs on that board that he can bet and even raise if he's bad-ish. We are going to call with ace 4. Ace 4, we are not playing for that much, but I think it's going to be plus EV anyway. Because even though if we lose, we are still having nice amount of chips left. With 10 BBs, we'll need to start to conserve our chips a bit better. So we are trying to do some cheap moves here. On the turn, we got a min flush draw. Now we have some showdown equity against. Actually, showdown equity against what? What can our opponent have here that we would have showdown equity against that he calls the flop? Some weird 9? Well, he had some weird 9, but he had a king as well. And Kauris says that 6 deuce off is an easy fold. I don't agree with you. 6 deuce off is a solid hand against the general opponent. King 6 off, it's going to be profitable to shove anyways. And now we are just unlucky that our opponent had ace 8 suited. Ace 4 off, we are not going to call this. I think this is going to be. This is like going to be a Nash call and anything, but I don't think that it's going to be that plus EV, and I think that we are having way more equity against this guy. When he plays just one in two buttons, I think that he's going to leak slowly his equity to us anyway. So, and he's folding a ton against my limp bets. So if he folds a ton to my limp bets, then I'll keep doing it. If he wants to push his money to me, I'm receiving. And nice. And if I have time, I'm trying to chat nice with my opponents. It's always going to be good if they're thinking that you are lucky and not good. And it's nice to have some banter on the table, so everyone gains if you are having. Everyone gains when you are having friendly atmosphere at the tables, because then it will be fun for the player to come back as well. And Kauri says that Aces are maybe a fold. No, aces are never a fold. And as I promised to Danita that the variance of these games doesn't matter because we are going to win one game. As I said, and we got like the bounty of our bounty grew to 21, so we received $19 of bounties, and then we got our own bounty back, so we got $40 of bounties, and this was like a crappy bounty run. There were so many bounties that leaked to this Waterjet and Ilyasnik. So we got well like $100 for finishing first in this. So it's like 20 buy in first position. So I think it's pretty good. And now it's actually a good time to stop Poker Stars so that we can look at the hands. Pretty nice. 13 games, 2 or 3 money finishes. Actually, at least 3. And there are some spots that we have won some part of the buy-in back. I think in here, do I have the buy-in graph as well? Probably I do. But on some games I did lose less than the buy-in because of the. So let's go to the reports. Hands report. There was one king queen off that Kauris wanted to check. That's what I remembered that I need to check. And that was the spot that we raised against. I think it was against this Leroy T. And this was pretty early on that I think that in this game, in this Leroy T hand, so this is the hand. We got an unknown opponent that had gotten a big stack, and he had played, like on the 7 hands that he had played pretty aggressively, like most people do when they are having the big stack. So in this case, I'm thinking that this guy is, I'm not completely sure, but I'm thinking that he's likely having a wide range to open, and if he's having a wide range to open, then king queen off will be a good counter to shove against him. So he opened 3x, and this is bad in a way. It's, on the other hand, it's bad because when an opponent opens 3x, then he's going to be less likely to fold. But on the other hand, when he opens 3x, the pot gets to be quite enticing. So in this situation, I think that opponents are not adjusting to their range enough when they are in this kind of a situation, that they, like, if their basic opening size is 3x, I don't think that they are understanding that enough. So I think these pots that when opponents open 3x are more juicy than a normal pot if an opponent opens min raise. So, and for Kauris, even though this is 43/29, this is only 7 hands. We don't know anything against this opponent, but we can say that what will be likely. And this is not likely that this player is an 11/11 nit. I think that's going to be like, I can say with 80% confidence that this guy is not going to be a 11/11 nit, even though I have only 7 hands on him. So we shoved here, and then the question is this going to be a good shove or not? And Kauris says that cutoff still 100%, but how many times? 1. Like, if we are having 7 hands on our opponent, it's less than 1 orbit. So every steel stat will have a every steel stat will be only on one hand. And when the steel stats are going to be only on one hand, then it's going to be let's go here with, I think this is quite far away from the money, so let's go with 90/10 price pool structure. And this is to add a bit of add a small ICM effect there, even though we can't calculate the ICM effect in here completely. And actually, this is not a basic hand, it should be an advanced hand. And let's say that our opponent opens for 3 big blinds. Let's get the all-in range for him as well. UTG folds, MP1 folds, MP2 folds, MP3 folds. And from cutoff off, let's calculate the options for our opponents. So what is important for you when you are looking at stats is going to be that you know what the stats mean. You know, like if you are having 20 hands on your opponent, you'll know that if it's full ring, the opponent likely has had just 2 opportunities to steal. And so you'll take more notice on the steal stats only when you are having like 100 or 200 hands on your opponent. And if a cutoff opens 27%, then we could shove, like king queen off would be a borderline shove if he opens 27% and calls 17%. That's actually going to be pretty much on the upper edge of what I think our opponent will do. So king queen off, actually it's going to be pretty. I think it's going to be pretty close to what I think. And what then we'll practically need to adjust his range of what he's calling with if we shove. And people are not calling enough with these suited hands that they are opening with. I think this is probably something that our opponent will call us with. So if we are having that taken into account, let's see how our range to 3-bet here changes. And then let's see what kind of a range our opponent would need to open for our 3-bet here to be profitable. And we don't need to worry about knockouts here because we can't knock this opponent out. We actually can knock out both SB and BB, but I still think that it doesn't matter that much in this hand because the likelihood that small blind or big blind will take part of this hand is quite minimal. And now that we remove hands that our opponent will call us with, but would we get dominated, our equity here gets lower with king queen off. So we will be quite close. So we are trying to look from his range. We are plotting range versus hand equities. And we want to see Button's range for shoving, let's say king queen off. Let's see king queen suited as well. So we'll see how the suitedness affects our ranges here. And so if we are looking at, we can shove king jack suited with if our opponent plays tighter. And I think king queen suited in here would be a hand that would be an easy shove. Like our opponent will be shoving more than 22%. And in this situation, it's going to be closer to 30% for it to be profitable for us to go with king queen off. I actually think that king queen off is going to be thin. And yeah, it might be that our opponent is not calling, but if I'm adding something stupid that my opponent calls with, I'll rather add these small pocket pairs, and then I'm a bit too cautious perhaps. But I think in these 3-bet spots, it's better to be a bit too cautious rather than be completely wild. So I think in this spot it would be, if we are a bit too tight, it's not a problem. And actually, to think about this hand again, I think that actually king queen off would be better to fold. Like, I think in here something like ace 8 suited, ace 9 off, king jack suited, pocket fours and up would be pretty good range to shove here. They would be the most solid hands against our opponent. And if there are any more questions or any more hands that you wanna see from the session, actually when Kauris is here now, let's go through this hand again. It was a Kauris's hand that he has had on the Finnish side. Now we actually have also the tools to our disposal, the mighty Holden Resources calculator. And Danita says that no ace king off in his calling range. Yeah, ace king off is in his calling range. But it might be that it's not in his raise range in general, so it might be that it's now included in his shove range rather than his raise range. It's actually probably not the best idea to do the whole resources calculator this way. But so Kauris had on our Finnish side, there is the tournament hand analysis, there's the knockout tournament call. And in this spot, I tried to calculate on like if this is from 888 poker and if this is a tournament that you are starting with 3000 chips, then you can calculate the chip value for one knockout, and this will be quite accurate. Like in these progressive knockout games, you can't calculate an easy knockout value, but in these games that the knockout size is common and well known, then you can calculate the knockout value in chips, and then we can like start to calculate like what's in it and what's our equity. So if we are putting this hand to home resources calculator, and this is actually also a tip for you, that if we are going with the home resources calculator, let's use this as a general MTT, like we are not in the final table yet. So if we are having this kind of a tournament that someone has posted that all of the stack size are in big blinds, I usually do it like this, that I'm going to go with the big blind of 100, small blind of 50, and then I'm trying to translate the ante into real life as well. And then I'm just going for 1 6 2 4 because the big blind is 100, so then I can do this the easiest way. But I prefer having the real stack sizes because they are going to be the best in this situation. Do I have all the stack sizes? Yeah. Let's do a quick calculation. And in here we can now see the 5.53 by 1.13 5.54 big blind stack, the MP2. What range should he open? Like 33%. when he opens for 33%, what's the calling range for big blind? And it would be 41.8. And in here now it's in big blinds, like how much you are losing with any hand. And like here is no hand that would be worse than 0.7 here. Actually, now it's the price pool. I can't use the ICM in here. So let's go for Chippy V in big blinds. Then it works better for our uses here. My bad. I wanted to use ICM because it would have been pretty for the final table. For the final table mathematics sake. So let's now see the MP2 shoves. What range can we call in the big blind? And if he shoves any 34%, when we are thinking about the $1.5 bounty, then we'll do a Stetson Harrison estimation. So we are shaking our shirt, and what falls in there, like now I got an idea in my head. We are getting around 37% equity. So then we are going like 37% equity times 1.5. What's 37 times 1.5? So 0.37 times 1.5, and the 1.5 is now the knockout value in big blinds. So the knockout should be about 0.555. So when we are making Hold'em Resources calculator do our job for us with big blinds, then we can just select the hands. So we can get our range, edit range, select by edge, and 0.55. Actually select by edge, and edge is minus 0.55. And that's our range. I think in this case we can call with about 77% range against 33% shove range. And the general opponent will probably shove with more of a hand that range that consists more of pretty hands. So let's calculate also against pretty hands. We could do like 77% if we are against 34% range. So if we are against a reg that's likely playing good, and if we are against a player that's not a reg. And also now we are editing range, selecting by edge, and we want to have any hand that's better than 0.55. So now it would be 62.5, and actually queen 5 off is not there. So if your opponent is an unknown, I think the queen 5 off that Kauris had in the game is not a good call. It's on the edge, like it's when you are taking a knockout into account. I think it's going to be closer to 0.10 or something like that. So like 0.1 big blinds. It's not a huge mistake to call against a tight range, but it's not plus EV. If your opponent is a reg that shoves a lot, then I think it's going to be plus EV. But this is more of a how you should look at the hand with the knockout on trying to extract the knockout value, and practically on MTTs when you are at the late stages and it's not a progressive knockout, then most of the time the knockouts do not matter. Now I should ask that is Kauris satisfied with the depth that we went through your hand, and also I think this is going to be pretty useful for the players that want to play knockouts but don't know how to analyze the hands, especially when there are knockouts involved. And like when I said that when I did the calculation, I'm trying to think about the range. Like I said that I'm doing the range calculation, so I have an idea of what kind of a. So if I'm thinking about that my opponent is having like 25% ish range, so then I'm going for the pre-flop hand. We had queen 5 off, and of course we would need to change the equity. So it's 0. So it's 33.4. So actually the what we would have would be something like 30 0.3 33.4% times 1.5. But it doesn't matter. Like in here we have now gone from 0. Or it moved the calculation at 0.5%. So in general, we don't need to calculate the exact amounts for our calculation to be useful. If we know, like with queen 5 off, that our common equities will range from 35 to 40% depending on how big of a range the opponent shoves with. And Kauris says that this is a 1 plus $3 tourney. Maybe nothing matters. Of course it matters, because if it's 1 plus 3, I thought that it was a $5 tourney and $1 out of it was a knockout. So everything I have calculated has been wrong. If it's a $4 buy-in with $1 knockout, then all of the situations that change would be just like knockout value would be 750 chips, then it would be the knockout value would be 1000 chips. And when the knockout value would be 1000 chips, then we would have had a knockout value would be 2 big blinds. When it would be 2 big blinds, we are having 0.33 equity, then we would have 0.334 times 2, so then we would have 0.67, and it would then change our ranges even against the tight player. Then we could edit range, select by edge, minus 0.67, and then actually queen 5 off would just be a good call even against the tight player. So if this is a 3 plus $1 game, then queen 5 off is going to be a good call even against a tight player. If this is a 4 plus $1 knockout, then this is going to be a good call against an aggressive reg, but it's not going to be a good call against an average opponent. And as we have seen, we tried to explain the bounty in different terms, and me, Kauris, and Danita, we all got different ideas on what the bounty is, so sometimes it's hard, poker, explaining and using the common notations. But that's why there is discussion. If you ask, you are not going to go far. But as you've seen, it affects like the knockout value affects, and this is how it changes. And actually, like everything I had here will also change with that, or this will change with the 2. So we would need less equity against our opponent with the larger knockout value. But we also used Whole Resources calculator for it, so there we can get a better answer. And something I don't like with Whole Resources calculator that much, that you are getting like answers to 0.01 big blind, because you will have so much uncertainty on opponents' ranges and everything will. But when your brain sees that, wow, this calculator is so accurate, then it's going to be like this is so accurate, even though the uncertainty with your opponent's ranges and everything will be way more than the. But I think that's about it. Now I have pretty much explained what I want to explain, and I think this session has come to an end, and it ended with a win. And on summertime on Poker unfortunately, we are probably going down to about 3 sessions a week, and there will be 2 English sessions a week. So there will generally be Kyberi every other week on Wednesdays, and there will be Eulos Pro on every other Thursday or every other Tuesday. I must check it, but there will be about 2 sessions in English per week. On summertime, there is not that much traffic poker wise, so we are going to go for a bit with a bit less activity ourselves as well. But thanks everybody that chatted. I have seen so many new members on our site as well, so please join our site and pokerimania.com, and also take part in the coachings, subscribe to our channel in YouTube, follow us in Twitch, follow us in Twitter, follow us on Facebook, and then you'll get notified on what's the topic, when does our coaching session start, what's happening on the site. And as all good things, this coaching has now come to an end. If you are going to sleep, have a good night. If you are still playing poker, may this be a winning night for you. Bye.